I am Ryan Berry, and I am here to talk about balancing power. Now, when I say balancing power, I mean the power grid, the electrical grid, where we get all this wonderful electricity to power the lamps and uh, the computers that we have. Now, when I say balance, I mean that we need different types of energy sources. We can't just rely on coal. We can't just rely on nuclear or solar or wind. And a lot of you might think, well, that's kind of an interesting thought, and it seems almost a political thought. We should balance it out, and it is. And I must say that it comes from a little bit of a bias, maybe on my side, because I do work at a coal fire power plant, and I do work there and realize that the harm that it does to the environment. I will say that we've made great strides on keeping that footprint down as much as possible and the best means that we have. And unfortunately, other countries have not come up to these standards because they don't have the EPA and standards like that uh, to keep their footprint down, their carbon footprint, as it were. Now, granted, we are still spitting out a lot of carbon. It's not good, but it's not the only energy source with faults. First off, let's talk about wind. Wind energy is great, except for the fact that turbines so far up in the air, they're not easy to work on. They're real finicky, and uh, if you want to make enough power that the plant that I work at does, then you need a very big space to do that in. You need 1.5 acre for every 2 megawatts. Now, a megawatt is 1,000,000 watts, and the plant that I work at are two different turbines, and one turbine makes about 252 megawatts per hour. So if you need that kind of output from wind and having all your turbines working at maximum efficiency, then you need around 171 football fields. That's how much space you need. 171 football fields. Now, that's a lot of space for that little uh, that little of output. Now you think, 252 billion watts an hour is a lot. Well, there are other supercritical plants that put out way more than that, 4, 5, 6 times that much, and they still only need a fraction of the space that solar or wind does, because solar needs even more space than wind turbines do, because the the solar panels, they need about 2 acres per megawatt. So you can imagine that's a good more distance for that kind of output. Now they are working on getting that technology more advanced. And that's good. We want to have them continue that. But until then, they need the other sources like natural gas and coal and nuclear. Granted, uh, we all know the harms of coal. We put carbon out into the atmosphere, and it is the main cause. Well, it's it's one of the main causes of carbon into the atmosphere, which causes the greenhouse gas effect, which is raising the temperature of the environment and in the world. But also, cars is a big problem with that, and that's actually the number one. But power plants isn't too far behind. Coal-fired power plants aren't too far behind, but luckily, a lot of them have been brought down because they can't keep up with the EPA regulations. Luckily, the plant that I'm at does, and we can continue to provide power to the people around this part of the country, which is another issue that we have with solar and wind. Uh, Wind and solar will not work well in a hilly part of the country like we have that sometimes rains and is just cloudy for 2 or 3 days, and there's nothing we can do about it. You're not going to be making power at your house with solar panels. And if it gets too windy, those wind turbines won't work. They have to turn at the right speed. And of course, these are all. I know I'm being a little hard on uh, solar and wind, and it's probably because uh, I work in a coal fire fire power plant. My dad worked there, and my brother works at one. Like it's kind of a family business, and we do hold it close to our heart, especially in this part of the country. And there are nuclear plants around here, not too close to where I'm from, where I am, but a few here and there. They have their own issues. While they do make energy in pretty small doses of waste, there's still waste, and that waste has a half-life of about 24,000 years. That's how long it takes for plutonium to decay, and it's a pretty big issue, and especially since they really don't have a true proper way to take care of nuclear waste. So these are all issues that we're having with each one, with each power industry trying to come up and say this is what we need, this is what we need. What we need, in my opinion, is a balance. We should all look at each one and balance out what we have and what we can do with what we have. We need to keep using the fossil fuels, but we don't need to use them like we did. We don't need to just burn them up like they're never going to end, because there's going to be an end. It's going to happen before we realize it. But we need to realize also the technology for wind and solar just isn't there yet. And if we want them to be able to, those people who are working on that technology to be able to uh, continue this, we need to realize that while what they have is great, but we need to push for better, newer technology that can actually do more than what we're doing now. And the only way to do that is to balance what we have. And again, this is my opinion. So the idea is balance. It's all about balance. It's good to be excited and have your energy, but you've got to remember where it comes from and the harms of it. So my last note, please, before you get down too far on the dangers and the destruction of fossil fuels, remember, it was still about balance, and we still need those around, at least for a little while longer.